I was pretty surprised this morning when I woke up to a light snowstorm. As I was doing my morning chores and checking all of the horses, it was a little bit eerie. Nigel still has a horrible haircut. He really is liking the new mash combination that I've been cooking up for him. Huckleberry is still acting a little bit weird. I am hobbling around a little bit still. I am also getting caught up on all of the chores that I didn't do while I was resting. Frisco Bill is also loving the new mash combination. He has gotten a little bit of an extra spring in his step these days. Typically, my horses do not get very much sugar or starch in their diet, so he must be feeling all of the extra sweetness to the senior feed that he's getting. Even with this light snow, the neighbor is starting in on all of their farming for the year. A few of you have asked me if I still ride Frisco Bill, and I actually probably haven't ridden him in over a year. The last horse show I took him to, he kind of let me know that he was done playing that little game. I had been using him still to pony some of the young horses, but that is actually a pretty hard job if the horses are a little bit on the squirmy side. He looks pretty spry on the new food, so it might be in his benefit if I could ride him a few times a week. His 29th birthday is actually in a few more days. I'd like to think that it is my good care that keeps him young, but I think the steady stream of mayors for him throughout the years has really allowed him to stay energized. The situation with my ankle is a pretty big bummer because I was just getting ready to start in on some of the horses. I'm still kind of figuring out exactly how I'm able to move without hurting it more. Judging by the bruising that happens, I think it's probably a grade 2 sprain, which is not too bad. The average recovery time for something like that is between 3 and 6 weeks. Honestly, there is no way I'm just gonna sit around for that amount of time, so I am gonna work on a way to figure out how I can get through my normal chores and hopefully working some of the horses while it's healing. When I very first broke that leg, it took me a couple of years for it to be better, so I did learn a few tricks and little things that I could do to get through my day while still allowing my ankle to heal. Thankfully, all of the horses I have now are at a place where they're not really going to pull me around too much. Skeletor has gotten a lot more calm, and I really haven't been taking him on hand walks, so I don't have to worry about him pulling me here and there. This snowstorm is a little bit crazy. There's just big fat flakes coming down and there's a bunch of clouds stuck on the mountains. I don't think it's gonna accumulate too much, and it is actually quite warm outside, so the snow is melting as soon as it hits the ground. While I was on the mend, Stewie scratched his eyelid pretty good. Thankfully, it didn't scratch his eye, but it does look a little bit gnarly still.
Whoa.
It looks like little Gus is a little bit jealous of all the scratches Stewie is getting this morning. He is definitely ready to start getting ridden this year. As usual, Pete does not want anything to do with me. For those of you wondering about how big the new horse is, he's about the same size as Stewie, maybe a tiny bit taller, but a little bit thinner as well. I just cleaned his eyelid when he scratched it. I didn't put any ointment or anything on it, and it looks to be healing up quite nice. I'm gonna give myself one solid week off of not actually working any of the horses and then see how my ankle feels after that. The last couple of days I've been pretty off schedule because I've been taking breaks to ice my ankle and just sitting down and trying to take it easy. Huckleberry hasn't been getting as much playtime, and I'm starting to be able to see an excess of energy build up in him.
Oh, buddy.
I'm just gonna go ahead and check on Whiplash and Goose. You can barely see the mountains poking through this morning through the snow. Whiplash still looks like a hairy goat. He does have a lot of winter hair that still needs to come out. Goose is still pretty annoyed with the solid panels that I put around their dry lot. He'll get over it probably when I start turning these horses out for the spring. I did get a few questions about what I would do if I got hurt so bad I couldn't feed the horses. I don't actually have a plan in place, but it would be easy enough for me to get some round bales and have the horses free feeding. All of the horses I have in right now can be handled pretty easily by somebody besides me. Scarlet is probably the only one that would have some trouble with that. The horse community where I live is pretty small and close-knit, so I don't think I would have any trouble finding someone competent to take care of the horses in the event that I get really hurt. We did recently install a bunch of Wi-Fi cameras so my husband can watch me while I'm riding. I am pretty careful when I'm out here by myself on green horses, but I'm thinking the cameras might make me ride a little bit reckless because I know someone's watching. With all of the chores done at the barn, I am heading back over to my quarantine pen. There is a chance that we're going to get some more snowstorms even though it is already May. The shed that I have in the back for the new horse doesn't have any sides on it, and the trees don't have their leaves yet. Typically it is not very windy out there, but I am going to go ahead and install these side panels. This guy has just been fitting in really well. I haven't put a halter on him since I brought him home and turned him out. He acted like he was going to be a little bit on the sassy side, so I just moved him around this pen. He is a super cute moving little guy too. I think he was really trying to read me and figure out what exactly I was going to do with him. As soon as he stopped to face me, I took a few minutes to let him relax, and then he just went ahead and let me put his halter on. Since he seems to be doing really well and is a lot more healthy than the typical horse I get in from an auction, I am going to go ahead and give him one more little check. I'm going to check to see if his lymph nodes are swollen. I checked his vitals, and the last thing I have to do is go ahead and get a temperature on this guy. A lot of horses do not like this, but I have a feeling this guy won't mind too much. Over the last week, I really haven't found anything that bothers this guy too much. He can be a tiny bit reactive to motion and things like that, but nothing crazy. He hasn't shown any signs of really being sick other than maybe his throat latch was a little bit swollen for a day or two. A normal horse temperature is 99 to 101, so he is perfect. I did notice the other day that this guy does have a bunch of ticks on him. I very rarely get grossed out, but I just do not like ticks at all. The easiest way for me to get rid of the ones that are latched on is going to be to deworm this guy. If he has any biting lice, this will also kill them. Hopefully this will knock out a lot of the adults, and then I'll come back in about a week. He will then get a bath with some lice shampoo that should kill everything else that may have hatched between now and then. This guy is going to see the vet in a couple of days to get his teeth done. For an 18-year-old horse, this guy does have really nice teeth. I can feel a few sharp points, but I'm hoping that his dental is uneventful otherwise. He has been settling in so well. I think he would actually enjoy if he got to work right away. Since he was treated with ivermectin, I am going to keep Huckleberry out of his pen for the next couple of days. Herding dogs can have a sensitivity to certain types of drugs, and ivermectin is one of them. A lot of people don't take this very seriously, but I've seen several dogs with neurological symptoms from eating horse poop that has dewormer residue left in it. A couple years ago, Tiny also went temporarily blind when she licked some ivermectin that one of the horses spit out. So I am overly cautious anytime I deworm the horses with other animals around that shouldn't be getting it. I was pretty surprised that this guy did not dribble any of his out of his mouth, so hopefully in a few days I will be able to see those ticks drop off and he'll start feeling a little bit better. I wouldn't be surprised if I find some bot fly larvae in this guy's poop, but I'm not really anticipating seeing any actual worms. I'm going to go ahead and kick apart all these turds just so I know which ones are fresh. And this is when I realized, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that with an ankle that is hurt. When I'm walking normally, it doesn't really hurt too bad, so it's easy to forget that I need to be babying it for a few more weeks still. I've had these enclosure panels for actually 2 years and I have just never put them up. They are basically just fancy tarps with grommets in it that fit on this shelter perfectly. It can get really windy out here, and these shelters do kind of levitate off the ground at certain times. So with that in mind, I am going to make a few modifications to these directions that I'm reading. The tarp that goes in the half moon area I am not going to be putting up. This kit also comes with ropes to attach these little tarps, which I am not going to be using. I got the first panel up and then realized I definitely put it on backwards. I did not read the directions too carefully, so this is not really a surprise. I have a lot of extra heavy duty zip ties, so I'll just cut it down and put it back on the correct way. I haven't seen this guy lay down since he's been here, but that's really not a surprise for a new horse in an unfamiliar place. In order to lay down, they have to be pretty darn comfortable with their surroundings. He has definitely gotten a lot more outgoing since he's been here. I think he's finally starting to realize that this is going to be a place that he's going to stay for quite a while and he can settle in. He was showing a little bit of body soreness when he first got here, but I think all the alfalfa he's eating is definitely taking care of that. Once he gets up to a body condition that I'm satisfied with, I'll probably switch him back over to grass hay. It is a little bit wild that just after a week on straight alfalfa and some mashes, how his top line is really starting to fill in. A lot of people like to hit these horses with all kinds of crazy supplements and special feeds, and really all they need is proper basic nutrition, and they do quite well. I think the zip ties were definitely a good idea for this little project. I'm pretty stoked to see if this guy will find it welcoming, and hopefully he'll be able to lay down inside and take a little nap finally. I do have to repair the tears in the top, but other than that, this is pretty solid. Naturally, as soon as I finish with the shed, this guy just plops down right in the middle of his pen. I kind of want to go over and give him a little bit of snuggling, but I think he'll probably just get right back up. It is really nice to see that he is finally comfortable enough to lay down and take a nap. The neighbor's horse is also taking a little snooze next to him. With this shed done, I'm going to lay down some shavings for him, and hopefully he'll stand in here if the weather gets really crummy. It turned into a super nice day out today, but we are slated to have our first kind of big rainstorm of the season pretty soon. There is also a good chance that some of that rain might actually be snow still. Whether we get rain or snow, this guy should be perfectly content. He is eating well, and now that he has his shelter enclosed, he should be totally fine. I haven't really been grooming this guy other than testing to see when his winter hair wants to come out. It is looking like he is ready anytime. I will probably go ahead and give him a really good grooming session before I take him to the vet. I would really like to give him a bath, but I don't know that the weather's going to make that possible. His first bath is probably going to be in a week when I treat him for leftover lice. His tail is dragging on the ground, so I'm just going to trim it up a little bit. Hopefully, with the few inches off, he won't step on it and pull big chunks out. And the birds will have some extra nesting material. Because I'm very cautious about whatever germs these guys may be carrying, I don't spend a lot of time doting on these horses in the first week or so. In addition to helping prevent the spread of disease, it also gives these guys a lot of time to kind of come around naturally to me. I don't like putting a lot of pressure on them to be instant friends with me. I think that it's nice they can kind of figure this out at their own pace. This guy has a ton of winter hair still stuck around his forelock, and he loves getting scratches there. He also has a few ticks stuck up in there, so hopefully they'll be gone in the next day or two. As far as tick-borne illnesses in the United States are concerned, Montana does not have very many. The likelihood of getting Rocky Mountain spotted fever or Lyme's disease are pretty low compared to other states. This guy has been in Montana for quite a while, so I'm not really worried about him having any of the other tick-borne illnesses. For horses that I get in that may have traveled out of state or lived in a different region of the United States, it is something that's always in the back of my mind. I took a short break to ice my ankle and have a little bite to eat. I've been giving this guy his mash twice a day, and he is really starting to love it. This is still just some alfalfa pellets and beet pulp. There is a tiny bit of senior feed in here just to make it a little bit more palatable for him. But other than that, his diet so far has been very basic. I really do like to keep it simple so I know exactly what these guys are getting and that all of their nutrient requirements are actually being met. Typically, after a week, I might start adding in some fat or some mineral supplement if I think these guys need it. I think when this guy is at the vet, I might just have his blood drawn to check his vitamin E levels. I usually just supplement all of my horses with vitamin E, but it might be kind of interesting to find out if they're actually deficient when I get them. As I spend more time with this guy, getting to know him, I am going to go over his body a little bit more closely. I still have not found anything that makes me really concerned about his future. Overall, he is just a really nice older horse with a very good temperament. I'm not really expecting to find any worms in his poop, but I'm gonna go ahead and check just to make sure. It also looks like he was in the run investigating a little bit today. The swelling on his fetlock is down and it looks completely normal now besides a few little scrapes. I had checked this guy for melanomas earlier, but I was doing a more thorough investigation and unfortunately I did find a few. When I initially put the bid in on this guy without seeing him, I thought in my mind he definitely has to have some. 80% of all gray horses will end up getting melanomas at some point in their life. Thankfully, 90% of these are benign. While I was doing my research on the latest and greatest on these guys, I did come across a study that was just published in January of 2023. I will go ahead and link it in the description for anybody that's interested. A lot of horses with this type of skin cancer do not die from it, they die with it. So although these are an abnormal finding, it is not something that I am overly concerned about at this point in time. Altogether, I did find 3 little nodules on the bottom of this guy's tail. They were pretty tricky to see, and I doubt the previous owners even knew that they were there. While this is a bummer, I am going to have my vet take a closer look at them while he is sedated. We can take closer note of their size and location so we can keep a very close eye on them for any changes. Thank you guys so much for watching and stay tuned for the next video.